This Torah class is brought to you by TorahAnytime.com.
I'm going to have Shabbos as we prepare for Parsha's Truma. And Chodesh Adar, we know Chodesh Adar, the mazel of Adar is Dagim. What's the inyan that the astrological sign for the month of Adar is Dagim, fish. Fish is a big inyan. It's an important. The Mishnah Berurah brings down from the Magen Avram that you should have fish by all three Sudas on Shabbos. But what's the inyan of that the mazel for Chodesh Adar is mazel Dagim? So we begin by talking about the mitzvah of building the Mishkan. The mitzvah of v'yasuli mikdash v'shachanti b'seicham. Like the pasuk then says, Kachal asher ani mara ischa. According to everything that I showed you, is tavnes hamishkan, the image of the Mishkan, v'is tavnes kol kelav, and the image of all the kelim, v'chein tasu. And we just want to mention the learning should be l'zeicha nishmas David Alter ben Chaim, Shalom Shav and Aliyah. So the Rambam says, in the Sefer HaMitzvahs, the Mitzvah Chaf, that this was not a one-time command to build the Mishkan, but rather this is one of the 613 mitzvahs. The HaMitzvah HaEsrim, the 20th mitzvah in the Torah, Hi shetzivanu livnais beis avoda, is to build a beis avoda. Now look carefully. The Rambam is encapsulating. The Rambam is being magdir. The Rambam is defining what is a beis hamikdash. A beis hamikdash is a beis avoda. It's an interesting description. If you had to describe what the beis hamikdash is in two words, what would you describe it as? What?
Beis Medrash.
Beis Medrash.
Beis Halimut.
Beis Halimut. Beis avoda. Why? Bo yiyah hahakrava. There you're makriv karbanos. V'havaras o eish tamid. The fire is always burning there. Ve'elav yiyah hahalicha. And everyone goes there. V'ho aliyah l'regel. Yumekayim rayon. Aliyah l'regel. V'hakibutz b'chol shana. K'may shizbar. V'hu amro yisale. And where did Hashem command us to build a mikdash? V'yasuli mikdash. Like the Sifri says, 3 mitzvahs Klal Yisrael were commanded when they entered Eretz Yisrael, to appoint a king, to build the Beis HaMikdash, and to destroy Amalek. What do we see from here? Hine hizbaer shabinyan Beis HaBechira mitzvah b'fnei atzma. Building a Beis HaMikdash is a mitzvah by itself. The Rambam in the Hilchos Beis HaBechira, Parak Aleph, Halacha Aleph, also likewise describes the function of the Beis HaMikdash. He says, mitzvah saseh, la'asa is bayis Hashem. It's a positive command to make a house for God. Muchan, prepared lios makrivim by hakarbanos. What's the purpose of the Beis HaMikdash? To be makriv karbanos. V'choygigen elav, and you celebrate their shalosh pam bashana. Shenemar v'yasali mikdash. That is a very, very interesting and different hagdara of what a Beis HaMikdash is. Because if you would have asked me to describe what a Beis HaMikdash is, you know what I would have said? Then you know what a Beis HaMikdash is? It's a makoim hashras hashchina. Like the pasuk says, v'yasuli mikdash shachanti b'seicha. Why is the Rambam defining what's a mikdash? Beis avoda. That's the description, that's the definition. I would have described it as bayis lahashras hashchina. And in fact, that's how the Ramban describes it. The Ramban, in the beginning of this week's Parsha, a very fundamental Ramban. Let's take a look inside. At his holy words, says Ramban, number 4, Kasher diber Hashem im Yisrael, panim b'panim. Right, number 4 is Ramban. Like Hashem spoke to Klal Yisrael face to face, asaros hadibros. Now the Ramban says something amazing. I'll tell you outside and we'll read inside. God spoke to Klal Yisrael face to face on Har Sinai. He revealed himself on Har Sinai, openly, in front of 3 million Jews. He taught us asaros hadibros. He came down on the mountain. He was mashva hashchina on the mountain. What's the Mishkan? The Mishkan is encapsulating the hasras hashchina of Har Sinai. Whatever occurred in Har Sinai, you ever hear the expression, I wish I could bottle it up and take it to go? That's what the Mishkan is. We bottled up the experience of Har Sinai, and we have it permanently in the Mishkan. Says Ramban, Kasher diber Hashem im Yisrael panim b'panim asaros hadibros, when God spoke to Klal Yisrael face to face the 10 Commandments, v'tziva osam al yedei Moshe, and He commanded Klal Yisrael through Moshe k'tzas mitzvahs, some of the mitzvahs. Shehim Kamay Avos, limits Shal Torah. In other words, the Aseres Hadibros, Ramban learns that Klal Yisrael heard from Rebbeinu Shalom directly only the Aseres Hadibros, and the rest of the mitzvahs were taught through Moshe. Why did Hashem tell us the Aseres Hadibros? The same way when you're Megayer someone, you give them a sampling of those things that reflect the whole Torah, so too Hashem gave us a small sampling. Kasher and Higu Rabbi Seinu and Hagerim Shabam Lihis Yahid. Like our rabbis have conducted themselves when Gerim come to convert. V'Yisrael Kibla Aleim Lasais Kamashi Yitzavim Al Yadai Shal Moshe, and Klal Yisrael accepted to fulfill whatever Hashem commanded us through Moshe. V'Karsim An Brisim Kolzeh, and we made a covenant about this. Meyata. From that point on, when we said to God, yes, guess what happened? Hine Heim Loi La'am, we became His nation. V'Hu Lohem Le'Elokim, and He became our God. Kasher Hisna Imam Etchila, like it was stipulated to begin with. V'Yata, like Hashem said, Im Shamaya Tishma'u B'Koili Ushmartem Esbrisi V'Yisem Li Segula. Hashem said, if you listen to me, keep my covenant, you will be my chosen nation. V'Yamar V'Yatem Tiuli Mamlechas Kohanim V'Gad Kadosh. Hashem told us, you're going to be a kingdom of priests. V'Hinehim Kadoshim. And now that we accepted the Torah, and we are holy, Ru'uyim Sheyeh Bahem Mikdash. We are worthy to have a Mikdash. For what purpose? Lahashra Shechina Say B'Neim. For Hashem to cause His Shechina to dwell among us. And therefore, says Ramban, that is why God commanded us, right? When Hashem commanded us to make the Mishkan, what's the first thing He commanded us to do? To make what? Not everyone at once. What's the first thing He commanded us? The Arayin. And then the Kruvim. Why? Because since the whole purpose of the Beis HaMikdash is for what? Shechina. So what brings the Shechina? Where does the Shechina rest? The Arayin. The Kruvim, like the pasuk says, "V'nayadati l'chasham v'dibarti idcha me'al hakaparis." That is why, even though when they made the Mishkan, of course, they made the walls first and then the inner kalim, like we find by Yaakov Kudei. But in terms of the command, He commanded on them to build first those things which were most important. Rabbi said this is very important. We're about 12 lines from the top. The second word on the line, v'soid, and the secret. You want to hear the secret of the Mishkan? Okay, you can hear it whether you like it or not. V'soid ha-Mishkan, the secret of the Mishkan. Hu sheyiyah ha-kavod asher shalchen al Har Sinai, that the honor that rested on Har Sinai, shoichen olav benistar, would dwell with Klal Yisrael in concealment, kamay shenem Hashem, like it says by Har Sinai, vayishka in kvod Hashem al Har Sinai. It says God dwelled on Har Sinai, uksiv, and it says hein heranu, behold you have showed us, Hashem lekenu, right? Hein heranu Hashem lekenu es kvod Davi es gadol, right? V'aschanan. It says Hashem, you showed us your honor and your glory. So too it says by the Mishkan, Kain Kasav the Mishkan, Uchvoid Hashem, Malayas Mishkan. And why does it say by the Mishkan, Ukvoid Hashem, Malayas Mishkan, 2 times?
Can I get?
2 times, Rabbi Isai, it says, Ukvoid Hashem, Malayas Mishkan. You know why? Keneged es Kvoidai, v'es Gadlai. V'haya b'Mishkan tamidim Yisrael. God was in the Mishkan always with Klal Yisrael. The same kavod that Shanir Lahem b'Har Sinai. And just like God spoke to Moshe Rabbeinu on Har Sinai, so too God spoke to Moshe Rabbeinu mi bein shnei hakruvim. And Rabbi Sai, the Ramban goes on to say at the end, al pi Kabbalah, that if you look carefully about the Psukim by Matan Torah, you will understand the secret of the Mishkan. Because we find that Shlomo HaMelech in his tefillah, he davened in the house of Hashem Elokei Yisrael, just like by Har Sinai it says, Vayiru es Elokei Yisrael. And it says Ramban, if you study and analyze the nuances of language that it says by Har Sinai, you find the same expression used by the Mishkan. So in other words, Ramban, how does Ramban define the function and purpose of the Mishkan? A makom for hashras hashchina. So we have over here a very interesting machlokes in how do you define what the essence of the Mishkan was. The Rambam says, what's the Mishkan? A place of avodah, a place of hakravas karbanos. And the Rambam says, no, that is the place where Hashem rests. So, Rav Asher Weiss, Hagoyin Rav Asher Weiss in Eretz Yisrael, He says that this machlokes between the Rambam and the Ramban is l'shitasam. Each one is following their unique understanding of the Mishkan. Because, let's go back to the Rambam in number 2. And I ask you the following question. Is making the Aron, the Shulchan, and the Menorah, is it a separate mitzvah? Or is it a mitzvah at all? Or is it part of the mitzvah of building the Mishkan? So the Rambam learns, look in the Rambam, look at number 2, the Rambam Sefer HaMitzvah, Sefer Mitzvah Chaf again, Ukfar B'yarnu, Shezeh HaKlal, this klal of building the Mishkan, Hu Koilel Chalakim, includes many parts. B'Sheh HaMenorah, B'Hashulchan, B'Hamizbeach, B'Zulasam, Kulam Heim Mechalke HaMikdash. They are all particular details of building the mikdash.
So each one is an individual mitzvah.
Each one is an individual part of one mitzvah. It's part of the mitzvah. No, it's not an individual mitzvah. It's a detail of building the mikdash.
You have 20 different guys, and each guy.
In other words,
one thing.
it's like hadassim, aravos, right? Lulav and esrog. They're all chalakim of one mitzvah of lulav and esrog. So too, there's the mikdash. Part of the mikdash is the walls, the vessels, the aron, the menorah, the shulchan, and so forth. It's all one mitzvah according to the Rambam.
So if you have 20 different guys doing each,
they're all doing. Yeah, they all get a piece. They only get a piece.
They're not getting their own individual.
Together, they have in conglomerate. They get one mitzvah, right? The Ramban disagrees with the Rambam. The Ramban, in his Hasagos on the Rambam, in Mitzvah Lamed Gimel, he disagrees and he says there's one mitzvah to build the Mishkan and there's another mitzvah to build the Kalim. One mitzvah is the Mishkan and one is build the Aron, the Menorah, the Shulchan. All the Kalim together are one mitzvah. Says Ramban, it is not kosher in my eyes. Hatam, the reason Shekasa by Harav that the Rambam wrote, Sha'amar, Shehem Chelek Mechelke HaMikdash. The Rambam learns they are just details of the Mikdash. But I disagree, says the Ramban. Lefi she'ein ha'kelim chelek min habayis. The Kalim, the Aron, the Shulchan, the Menorah are not details of the house. Aval heim shtayim mitzvahs. They are two separate mitzvahs. Ve'enon me'akvos zu ezu. They don't hold each other back. In other words, according to the Rambam, if you have a Mikdash and you don't have a menorah, you don't have a mikdash. The Ramban says no, they're not ma'akiv each other. One mitzvah is a mikdash and one is a kalim. What's the proof?
Second base of mikdash.
Are you allowed to bring karbanos if there's no base on mikdash on mizbeach?
No.
Yeah, right. We learned that in
a
couple of times. We makrivim b'bayis afal pi she'ein boi kalim elu. You're allowed to be makriv in the bayis even if you don't have a menorah. What do you mean? But then it's not a mikdash. No, it's not ma'akev. It's not ma'akev.
You can have an aron in Sheni.
Good. We didn't have an aron in Ma'av Sheni.
It's still
Right. Well, if you look at it now, there might be an answer to that. That it was there. It was underneath the ground. The Rambam alludes to that. But v'lachein etzli, says Ramban, asiyas ha'aron, making the aron, v'hakapoires, lasum sham ha'edus, timna mitzvah b'fnei atzma. Making the aron is a separate mitzvah. The Rambam learns the mikdash, the kalim is one mitzvah. The Ramban learns the mikdash is one mitzvah. The kalim are a separate mitzvah. So listen to what the Minchas Asher says. This machlokes Ramban, whether the kalim are part of one mitzvah or separate mitzvahs, that is dependent on their understanding of what the mikdash is. If you understand that what's a Beis HaMikdash, a Beis HaMikdash is a place that you do avodas Hashem. Avodah. It's a Beis Avodah, like the Rambam says. So if it's a Beis Avodah, so then the Mikdash and all the kalim with which you do the Avodah is all one thing. What the Mikdash anyway is only a Beis Avodah. It's only a place where you do the Avodah. So all the kalim that you do the Avodah is all part of making that Beis Avodah. But according to the Ramban, what's a Beis HaMikdash? It's a place for Hashras HaShechina. So what does the menorah got to do with making a place for Hashras HaShechina? One mitzvah is make the mikdash, that's for Hashras, and another mitzvah is you need to have kalim there because, by the way, you have to do avodah there. So the machlokes Rambam and Ramban suggests Rav Asher Weiss of whether making the kelim is one big mitzvah as part of making the mikdash, or a separate mitzvah, is really dependent on understanding the function of the mikdash. Take a look at that instead. Let's look at number 6. This comes from the Sefer Minchas Asher, Siman Mem Ches. V'hanira bezeh. They go according to their reasonings b'mahos inyan mikdash b'Yisrael, in what the function of the Beis HaMikdash is. Dihine samti alibi dikduk gadol v'lashon harama. Says Rav Asher Weiss, I have contemplated a great inference in the Rambam. Look carefully at the words of the Rambam. The Rambam, in being magner and describing the bayis, he says, Shetzivanu livnois beis avoida. What do we see from here? Harei shemahus habayis. What is the essence of the house? Biyoisai beis avoida. That it should be a beis avoida, lavoid boy, avoida sekarbanis. And the Rambam says the same thing in the beis habachira. It's a mitzvah saseh, to make a bayis, to bring karbanis. Umeyata, if you're going to say that, the inyan habayis v'ikar ba'avoida hanasis boy, the whole purpose of the Beis HaMikdash is to do the avodah. Mistaber the klei HaMikdash, all the various appurtenances, chelek mi mitzvah habayisim. That is just a detail of the mitzvah of the house. To like tushlam, you can't have a Beis avodah without the klei avodah, right? He said, "Delay tushlam asiyas habayis ad hayosei muchan u'mezuman v'roi la'avodah." But the Ramban learns, Rabbi, to turn on to the next page. Ramban learns, what's the purpose of the Beis HaMikdash? It's a place of Hashras HaShechina, capturing the Shechina that was in Har Sinai. U'lashitasai mashma, the Avodas HaMikdash, doing the Avodah in the Beis HaMikdash, inyan b'fnei atzmayu. That's a separate aspect of the Beis HaMikdash. Ve'eno lamahos Hashras HaShechina, that perhaps is not a resultant effect of the essential quality of the Beis HaMikdash, that is, it's a Makom Hashras HaShechina. Omeyata Asi Shapir. Why the Ramban learns that making the kelim is not a chilek min habayis, because since the avodah is not the inherent definition of the bayis, so the kelim are a separate inyan. So we have a very interesting machlokes between the Rambam and the Ramban. Are a kelim a separate mitzvah, or is it one mitzvah? So by the way, let's take a look at the Haggadah Shel Pesach. And you tell me what the Haggadah sounds like, the function of the Beis HaMikdash. We say in the Dayenus, right? You know Dayenu? Yeah? You know the song? Ah, okay. So the Haggadah says, V'chnisanu l'Eretz Yisrael, he brought us into Eretz Yisrael, Ubanu lanu as Beis HaBechira, and he built the Beis HaMikdash. Why? L'shakin shchina asai b'saychenu. No. L'chaper al kol avanosenu. To be mechaper averos. That sounds like that the purpose of the Beis HaMikdash is the makam avodah. So that's the Rav Asher Weiss says the lashon of the Haggadah is mashma like the Rambam. By the way, this diuk is also found in the Sefer Chazoin Liyamim, Haggadah Shel Pesach, Chazoin Liyamim of Rav Yonasan Sachs. And then Rav Asher Weiss makes another diuk from the Yushalmi, like the Rambam. The lashon of the Yushalmi is Masech Brachos, Parak Beis Halacha Aleph. Take a look at number 8, second line. Klam Shloimei Bincha Boina Beis HaMikdash Loi Lahakriv Boi Karbanos. Shlomo, he built the Beis HaMikdash. Wasn't it for what purpose? It's a Makriv Karbanos. Makriv Karbanos.
Beis Avodah.
Beis Avodah. Beis Avodah. Rabbi Isai says Rav Asher Weiss, I'm going to bring a raya to the Rambam that the Kalim are a chelek of the mitzvah of the Beis HaMikdash. Very interesting. He brings a raya from the pasuk. The pasuk says, "Va'asuli mikdash." Shchantim b'sefer. K'cha shani mara oischa. According to what I showed you. What did I show you? Tavnis ha-mishkan, v'yes tavnis kol kelav. So that seems to be saying, how do you fulfill the mitzvah of the asuli mikdash? Through the binyan ha-mikdash and the binyan ha-kelim. That sounds like the binyan ha-kelim is a chelek of the mitzvah of the mikdash. Rabbi Isai, that is a pshat of Rav Asher Weiss. I would like to suggest a different pshat. Why is the Rambam magdir that what is the Beis HaMikdash? A Beis Avodah. And like we asked, why didn't the Rambam say simply like Ramban that what's the Beis HaMikdash? Makom Hashras Hashchina. Okay? And I think it's very beautiful. Rabbi said plan A. When Rebbeinu Shalom gave us the Torah, The original plan. Where did he want to dwell?
Yes.
The person. Even after the Mishkan was only the medium to be able to dwell in us. But the original plan was not even to have the Mikdash. Now we say not even to have the Mikdash. Where are you going to bring karbanos? No, of course we would have a Mishkan to bring karbanos. But where is Hashem going to dwell? Just in us. But because of the Chet HaEgel, Hashem couldn't dwell in us anymore. And therefore Hashem had to say, you know what? You're disqualified, right? Because we know that at Har Sinai, the Zuhama that the Nachash injected us with disappeared. But with the Chet HaEgel, it came back. So Hashem said, you brought the poison back. I can't dwell in you anymore. I need a medium. I need the Mishkan. Okay? So the original plan, Rabbi Sai, was Hashem is going to dwell on us. That's the pasuk in Chumash. Take a look at number 10. Mizvach Adama Ta'asali V'zavachta Olav Es Oileisach V'shalmecha. Make a Mizbeach of earth, and you'll slaughter on it your oila, your shlamim. Es Tzaincha V'es B'karecha B'chal Hamakoy Ma'asher Azker Shemi. Wherever I mention my name of Eilach V'achticha. In other words, Hashem saying, where do I dwell? Wherever you are. I don't need a Mishkan. The original plan was Mishkan was not needed for Hashras Hashchina. Rabbi Sai La'asid Lavai. Where's Hashem going to dwell? Not in the Beis HaMikdash.
On you.
On us. On us. And that's also pasuk in Chumash. And what I'm telling you now is the Sfarno in the end of Shmini. It says in Taichacha that when we do the right thing, V'salachti b'soichem, I'm going to walk in you. I'm going to walk in you. Says the Sfarno in Shmini, the Sfarno is going on the mitzvah of eating kosher food. Says the Sfarno, originally there was no mitzvah. Right? Where is the mitzvah of eating kosher food found? Shmini. Well, why in Shmini? Why didn't Hashem told us about kosher right when He gave us the Torah? The answer is when Hashem gave us the Torah, we didn't need kosher food. You could eat McDonald's. No problem. Right? You could eat Burger King, whatever you want. There was no mitzvah of kosher food. You know why? Because since Hashem dwelled in us, we were on the madrega that we didn't need to eat pure food to bring Hashem. But, says the Sfarno, let's read the words. Don't take my word for it. Okay? Says the Sfarno. Zois hachai asher tochelo. Hine achar shehisnatzlu Yisrael es edyam haruchani shekanu b'matan Torah. When Klal Yisrael were stripped of their spiritual wealth that they acquired at Matan Torah, Asher B'Yha Yiruim Lishrosh Shchina Aleim Bilti Emtzai. When Hashem gave us the Torah in Har Sinai, we didn't need a Mishkan. Hashem was going to dwell on us. But when we were stripped of this level because of the Egel, we lost God dwelling in us. Now, how do I know Hashem would have dwelt in us? Ka'amroi v'chal hamakoyim asher azkir eshemi ava yelecha uve'rachticha. Wherever you mention my name, I'm going to be there. Ukemai sheyiyah ha'inyan la'asid lavai. That is what is going to be la'asid lavai. That is going to be la'asid lavai. Ka'amroi, like the pasuk says, v'nasati mishkani v'seichechem. I am going to put my dwelling in you. V'loi sigal nafshi eschem. And I'm not going to be disgusted with you.
I can have cheeseburgers?
No, at that point you could have.
Okay.
But then, because of the Chet HaEgel, Mo'as HaKel Yisbach Achakach, Mehashris Od Shchinas V'neim, Hashem said, you know what? I don't like you guys. You serve the Egel, I'm not going to dwell on with you at all. I'm out of here. Ki lo yela b'kirbecha. So Moshe Rabbeinu davened, and Hashem said, you know what? I will dwell with them, but not with them directly through the medium of the Mishkan. Like the pasuk Hashem says, "V'hisig Moshe Rabbeinu b'tfilasai ezet tikon," a small correction, "Shetishre hashchina b'soicham," that the Shechina should dwell in them, "Be'emtzas Mishkan," through the medium of the Mishkan, "V'kelav u'mesharsav u'zavachav," to the point where it was "Vayera kvayid Hashem al kol ha'am." And therefore Moshe Rabbeinu said, you know what? And Hashem said, we have to do one other thing for you to be eligible to have Shechina now. You have to make sure that whatever you eat is kosher food. But before the Chet HaEgel, there would have been no command about kosher food. So Rabbi said what the Sfarno is telling us is something very, very important. And what is that, Rabbi say? What is that? That the Mishkan was only necessary because of the Chet HaEgel. But the original plan was not to have a Mishkan. The future plan will be not to have a Mikdash. So what do you mean? But what's the third Beis HaMikdash going to be doing? The answer is, of course we're going to need it. It's going to be a Makom HaKravas Karbanos. But it's not going to be needed as a Makom HaShras HaShchina. Now Rabbi Say, the way the Chassam Sofer explains it, is that what is the Beis HaMikdash referred to in Tanakh? What part of the body? The neck. Like it says, Savarech, Kemigdal Hashem, Kemigdal David, Savarech. When in Chumash, when Binyamin and Yosef cry about the Batei Mikdashim, they cry in each other's necks. Why is Beis HaMikdash referred to as the neck? What's the function of the neck? It connects the head to the body. So too, the Beis HaMikdash connects the head. Who's the head? Vayavar Hashem Lefnei, right? Vayavar Malcolm Lefneim Vashem Beroisham. Hashem is our head. We are the guf. What connects us to Hashem? The Beis HaMikdash. La'asad lavai, we're not going to need a neck. You know what it's going to be like? A fish. A dog. A dog is the only creature, one of the only creatures, that doesn't have a neck. You ever look at a fish? Fish doesn't have a neck. It's a head and a body slapped onto each other. There's no neck. La'asad lavai, says the Chassam Sofer. Take a look at the Chassam Sofer. This could be found in the Torah Moshe Parshas Toldos, and in the Chassam Sofer, Torah Parshas Vayigash, and in the Jerusalem Agados of the Chassam Sofer. He says, "Kvar kosafti b'makam acher." Shabeis Hamikdash nikrat Savar. The Beis Hamikdash is called a neck. Savarich kemigdal Hashem. Shehu k'mayit Savar. It's like the neck. Shehu hashvil. That is the pathway, the byway. Bein haguf laharosh. So to the Beis Hamikdash is the connection, is the tunnel. Shemisham oilam atfilos. The tfilos go up, the karbanos go up, and the shefa comes down. Amnam la'asid lavai niya bebechinas dog. La'asid lavai, we're going to be like the fish. She'en loit savar. We won't need a Beis HaMikdash. What do you mean? But we're going to have one? No, it's only going to be for karbanos. But you don't need something to connect you and Hashem. Hashem is going to be on you. So basically we say the following. What's the purpose of the Mishkan? Avada, the purpose of the Mishkan was v'shachanti b'seicham. And that's why the Ramban says, what's the purpose of the Mishkan? It's to capture the Shechina. But I just want to point out one thing. The Rambam, in the Hakdama to the Sefer HaMitzvahs, and for some reason it did not make it onto the sheets, Sharish, one of his Shorashim, he says, in order to classify as a mitzvah saseh, what criteria does it have to meet? The criteria is, it has to be forever, l'dairos, for all generations. And therefore, if the Rambam is being magdir, what is the Beis HaMikdash? Can the Rambam say the function of a Beis HaMikdash is a makom hashras hashchina? He can't qualify and quantify and be magdir. What's a Beis HaMikdash? It's a place for hashras hashchina. Because that is not something that will exist for all time. Because when Mashiach comes, a Beis HaMikdash is not a makom hashras hashchina. What will the makom hashras hashchina be? You! So how's the Rambam going to be magdir what the mitzvah is? So the Rambam has to say, you want me to be magdir the halachic parameters of the mitzvah? The halachic parameters of the mitzvah are Makam Avodah. So there's no machlokes between the Rambam and the Ramban. The Ramban is saying, what was the purpose of the Mishkan in the Midbar? Like the Svarno says, it was a medium for Hashras Hashchina. But the Rambam is being magdir, what is the mitzvah? The mitzvah is, it's a Makam Avodah. Just so you should know, for the sake of completeness, there are another two shittas over here. What are they? You have the shita of the Ravid and the shita of Rav Sadia Gaon. The Ravid learns, right? The Rambam learned the Mishkan and the Kalim is one mitzvah. The Ramban learned the Mishkan is one mitzvah, the Kalim is another mitzvah. The Ravid says like this. He agrees to the Rambam that the Kalim are details of the Binyan HaMikdash. But the Mizbeach is a separate mitzvah. The opinion of the Ravid is in between. The Mishkan and the Kalim are one mitzvah, like the Rambam, but there is one kli that is a mitzvah of Tayatz, and that's a Mizbeach. Rav Sadia Gaon, he learns the Mikdash is one mitzvah, the Arayin is another mitzvah, the Menorah is another mitzvah, the shulchan is another mitzvah, and every kli is a mitzvah bifnei atzma. Rabbi say, Agun Shabbos.
You've just experienced another Torah class brought to you by TorahAnytime.com.